Welcome, everyone. My name is Andy Stevens. I am a change consultant who works mainly in the charity sector. In my role, I work with lots of different project management tools which are useful for different projects. But one area that often comes up is around teams and the sharing of who's responsible for what task. And there's a tool that I use quite a lot that I find useful for that called Responsibility Assignment Matrix. It sounds complex, but I'm going to explain it to you in two short parts, which will be 3 to 4 minutes each, and that will hopefully give you enough information to start trying one of these out. So in part one, I'm going to cover the why, the what, and the definitions. And then in part two, I'll give you an example and talk about how I use this in practice. So why? Why would you use something like this? So it helps you identify who does what. It's particularly useful where tasks cut across different teams. Secondly, it can help identify areas where there's confusion, where there's duplication or gaps in work. I mean, sometimes you've identified that already, but this will identify more of those by going through the exercise. It provides a very structured way to give clarity to people about who is meant to be doing what and what kind of task they're meant to be doing. It can make you more efficient by making this clearer. So people not having to go, who does this go to now? Just look at the matrix, then they know what the next stage is and who it goes to. And it also often identifies areas that need further review. So when you work through this, you realize that things aren't clear or there looks like a lot of people involved. So you might then do a further work to look at if you can make it more efficient. Then the what actually is this matrix? So effectively it's a table. And along each of the rows, you list each of the tasks that you want to be looking at. So you can see here, I've done an example of looking at expenses, going from completing, reviewing to authorizing. And then in each of the columns, you look at the roles that will be involved in that task. It's important to look at the roles, not the people. It should be what should that role do, not what does that person like or not like to do. Then you start to complete the matrix with who does what related to that task. You review and you agree on that, and then you share it so everyone's aware and it's transparent. So how would you fill up that table with who does what? So there's many different types of responsibility assignment matrix, but one of the most common and the one that I definitely use the most is called the RACI. And that's 4 different types of activity that you can do, one for each of the letters. So R is responsible. So it's those who actually doing and completing the task. There needs to be at least one person that's responsible, but maybe multiple roles are responsible for a single task. The A is for accountable. So that's who is actually answerable within the organization that this work gets completed. There should only be one person that's accountable. That person can be both responsible and accountable, and then there could be multiple people responsible, but again, only one that are accountable. The C is consulted. So this is where someone's opinion's sought and they may influence what you do, but they're not carrying out part of the task. So there's an element of two-way communication. Whereas the I informed is where there's communication, but that's one way from the activity to the person. So they're not going to influence what takes place, but you might tell them when a piece of work is done or update them on how things are going. So that's it for part one. Part two, we'll share an example and talk about applying some of this in practice. Thank you.